He is coming on right now from Vienna, Austria. This is a woman, her name is Shang. She came into my life, I don't know, like 5 months ago, 6 months ago, in a program I did called Known. And we just hit it off. And she is a bright light. Hello, beautiful. She is a bright light on the horizon. And she knows what the horizon looks like because this woman spent 10 years as an air traffic controller. And if you want to understand the complexities of life, you try holding in the air a bunch of metal tubes holding hundreds and hundreds of passengers, all trying to get there where they're going at a certain speed. So Shang, I'm so excited for you to share your brilliance and talk about being the pilot of your life in the Future Her conference. And then I'll be here to join you for some chit chat. You just let me know when you want me to come back on screen. Okay. I'm so excited for everybody to get to know you. This is Shang.
Hello. Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction, Suzanne. And I'm so honored to be speaking here. Now, this is my first time speaking in English. I am now based in Vienna in Austria. And I'd like to dive right in. Some of you might have been on the plane just recently. Some of you had been on a vacation or a business trip just a while ago. Imagine yourself right now sitting in this aircraft, in this plane. You just took off, you're in the air already 45 minutes, you have your coffee in your hand, you can take a sip and just enjoy the flight while you're looking out the window, the passenger window in that oval form, and you can see the horizon that Suzanne just talked about, which is very even. All of a sudden, you can see the coffee in your cup shaking. You feel that tingly feeling in your stomach when something is like pushing you or pulling you when you're accelerating. And the next thing you feel is the seatbelt is pushing into your thighs. You look out, the horizon's tilting, the plane is tilting, and the coffee is shaking in your cup. After 30 seconds, the plane levels. Everything is even, the horizon's flat again, and you continue your flight. Most of you know this situation, right? So we're on a flight, we're traveling, and sometimes there are movements. We don't know where they're coming from, but you know, at some point we're gonna land and just enjoy our trip. Now, for me, as an air traffic controller on the ground, those situations look very differently. It was in July 2019, and we were, the two of us, both women, air traffic controller, we were in charge in this shift. And it was very quiet. It was a quiet summer day, and we were sitting just like you, just in front of your screen, very relaxed in our seats. And you can imagine this screen as your radar, because we had our radar screens in front of us, our headsets, because I was talking to the pilots with the headset as an executive. And my colleague, she was on the phone coordinating everything with the adjacent sectors. We just had this one blip, a little square actually on the radar. There was a plane from Turkish Airlines, and it was very quiet, moving in this direction. Then he calls us. Radar, Turkish 15 Alpha requests descent. But you, looking at the radar, you can see another plane approaching with converging track. You say, Turkish 15 Alpha, expect descent in 4 minutes. Traffic is crossing 2,000 feet below, because you don't want those planes be on a converging track and then hitting each other because one was descending into the other. After a while, Turkish 15 Alpha, request descent now, we have severe turbulence. Now, severe turbulence for an air traffic controller means this can get very dangerous. severe turbulence can cause that the airstream below and above the wings, which is creating the lift for the whole thing to fly, this metal tube, might be uncontrolled, that you lose it and the pilot loses the control over the plane and the lives of those 150 souls. There was not much time left. I had to take the quick decision, and despite I was not allowed in the sector from the colleague here, I said, Turkish 15 Alpha, descent now, flight level 320 at 2,000 feet per minute or greater, turn left 30 degrees, traffic is 11 o'clock at 15 miles, crossing left to right, 2,000 feet above your cleared level. The pilot read back. My coordinator did everything she could that she would come through the telephone line of the other adjacent sector, told them you have to turn your traffic as well because we're turning ours to avoid the severe turbulence. And then there was this moment where everything was done and we had to wait until the planes were passing each other. That was the hardest. I can tell you now, like from hindsight, that everything went well. The most exciting thing was for me and my colleagues, the pulse that went from 60 beats per minute in just one snap to 180 beats per minute. And I walked home and I thought, oh my, why do I do this to myself? Why do I give this much stress to myself? What is this work about? And I found the answer. Not in this moment, but after that 10 years, I quit. And I realized I'm becoming the pilot of my own life now. You have to know for that, my parents are from Vietnam. So all of my ancestors, they come from a different continent. I am in Europe. I was born and grew up in Germany. And my parents grew up in Vietnam, a country that experienced war from 1955 to 1975, 20 years. A war where this country was divided into two pieces, Northern Vietnam and Southern Vietnam. Two things that actually belonged to one, that were meant to be one, unified, were separated in war with everything and everybody that caused it. My mom lost her mom, my grandmother, when she was 9 years old. And that was because a bomb hit her. And even though I was not there, and even though I did not experience it myself, the war, never in my lifetime so far, and direct, I still could feel the consequences. I could feel the pain of those who were before me. And that's how I became an air traffic controller, because my wish was to prevent people from colliding. My wish for the world was to create something together, to go into this co-creation without having to meet in a lethal way. My wish was to overcome boundaries. And now this is kind of the topic of my life. As you can see, my parents are both from Vietnam, but from Northern Vietnam, my dad, and my mom's from Southern Vietnam. And they met in Germany. Now they crossed several boundaries. They stepped over them. And that's it, where we can find in our history, in our ancestors, clues on our way, where we find our path of being the pilot of your own life, finding your true north. Now, how I speak right now, I have never spoken like this with that confidence before, because I used to be a very shy teenager who longed for the sense of belonging, because, you know, like people were making fun, and also like it was a fight. It was a fight to belong to the others, because the other eyes saw that I look different. I do not look like this typical German girl. And I believed that my voice was very small, and I was very small on this continent and in this world. And so I sounded in the beginning of training to be an air traffic controller. I would say, excuse me, British Airways 123, please turn left, because there is an Airbus 320 or a 380, both converging. Now, this is not how you become an air traffic controller. There was one exercise where I could see how the others worked through this exercise in the simulator, because we were still babies in training, and they did not want us to speak with the real pilots and real planes. So I could see how the others worked through this exercise, and it all went well, but I got frustrated. I got frustrated because I was too quiet, I was too slow, and I could not really make it right in terms of what I thought would be right. And I got really mad at myself, because I wanted it to be good. I wanted it to be good for myself. I wanted to be proud for myself. And even more, I wanted it to be good for my parents. I wanted to make my parents proud. That is the love of a child. A coach of ours saw that. His name was Gareth. And Gareth was a Scottish man, and he was big as a bear. I cannot even fit it into the screen here, how big he was. And with a heart just as big. And he had a very good sense of balancing being strict and following the rules, and taking in the humanness of the trainees, of the person he is talking to. And he was taking me aside and said, "Hey, what happened? What's happening?" We went to his office. I told him, "Oh, well, I got frustrated." And so I started crying, and tears were rolling down my cheek, because I got so mad at me. And I thought, oh my gosh, I will never be this person who can tell pilots where to go and where to fly. And he said, well, yeah, I understand. And it's hard. And especially here in the sector, you have to remember one thing. Never, never, ever cry in the simulator. Never, ever cry in the simulator. He wanted to protect me. He wanted to protect me because he knew there is no way that in this business, in this branch in aviation, it's very hard when you show yourself vulnerable with emotions. And I took it by heart. So I started to build up a big hard shell around myself, because I knew when you want to be here working with the colleagues in aviation, with the pilots, there's no way you can be over emotional. You have to be tough. You have to be on point. And it ended up in being me developing a voice that was very sharp. So sharp that on the telephone, I would sound like a very, very pissed off person. A colleague of mine said to me, "Oh, well, Shang, I'm so glad I know you in person because you're so kind. But really, when we're having a call on the telephone, just in the workspace, I think, wow, what is going on with this woman? She's so pissed. I really don't want to talk to her." And I did it because I wanted to create distance. I wanted to be strong and not emotional. I wanted to be professional. And what I did not see at that time, I created the same thing I was coming from, that separation within myself. Because my colleagues, they would only know me in jeans, in sneakers, t-shirt, and glasses. In private, my friends, they knew me, well, in sneakers, but then in leggings, in shorts, because I hated long jeans. I hated them. I just didn't like them. They would know me in skirts and dresses and with my contact lenses. For them, it was an unusual sight to see me with glasses. So I created like those two different lanes, those two personas, myself, the thing I wanted to avoid, actually, when you hear my story. And that's what happens when you are not clear about yourself and you don't have the mentor by your side or the teacher or someone close to you who guides you in the direction, who gives you a nudge to dissolve that separation. Because then you focus too much on the I without being clear. You don't actually know yourself. You focus too much on the I, you just see the I and the you. You see me, I want to do it good. Oh, the you, someone else is doing it better. Then you come back to, oh, I want to do it better too. I want to be tough. I want to be strong. I have to do it like this. This is how you do business. Oh, they or you is doing it differently. They're successful. Well, I am not. Okay, I have to do this. So we create this separation between those two entities. And what it's lacking, it's the us, the connection in between. So much so that we actually get afraid when a you approaches us in our I state. It was just about 3 weeks ago that I was in the metro station in Vienna here, a city of 2 million people. And I was daydreaming. I was daydreaming and having some sweet fantasies and just staring blankly through the aisle, as I thought, through the train. What I did not notice, because I was daydreaming, I was looking at a person, a human being, a man, but I didn't see it. He did, and apparently he got confused and wondered and started waving. That was when I took notice from him. And I saw him waving with his hand. I was like, oh, this is so nice. This is so nice, like in such a big city that someone like a stranger is just waving you and being friendly. So I smiled and I waved back. Guess what happened then? Him too, he waved, but this way. What a crazy person. This is what happens when we get too caught up in ourselves and the I and the you. Now, it's been just when I left air traffic control and I actually started to have the courage to really find my own way of life, to start this journey, because we are all on our journey of life. And as we heard already today, it changes. It changes. There's no point in where we would think, oh, this is just it, and it will never change, and this is going to be the end of my life until the end of my life. Because change is very natural. So what I found out is by exploring different things, being a yoga teacher, being a teacher for German as a foreign language, and finally becoming a coach and trainer, what I was meant to be here, still to guide people to create this peace that I was longing for so long. And I can tell you now, because I pushed away aviation for such a long time, because I thought, oh, well, 5 miles separation and 1,000 feet vertically, no one needs it. No one needs it. And when you start to bring it all together, when you can acknowledge your roots, and I'm not just saying your roots where you're coming from, like from business, the first job you learn, but also your roots, like your parents, your ancestors, and every generation before that. You free so much energy that you can put into your journey of life, to your vision, because we're all on a journey. We all have turbulences. May them be light, moderate, or severe. There's just one thing that we all want that unites us all, is to land safely and to come home. And I want to invite you now to a visualization, a meditation, just to ground yourself before I introduce you to the things that I learned from aviation, that I found out that we can transfer into our personal life to be this pilot of our life. Because there's so much from aviation we can learn. Aviation and psychology, they are actually the same age, more or less, about 140 years. Just in aviation, the feedback, anytime there was something wrong or so, you had to adjust it in a way that things were bringing us back safely to land. And that's what I'm inviting you before that, to take a deep breath. If you want, get yourself comfortable. Whatever you've got in your hands right now, you can put it away. So it may be a pen or paper or something like that. Just put it away for a second. Close your eyes or let your gaze become very soft if that is good for you. And already introduce yourself to this idea that you are the pilot of your own life. That you as a soul chose to come to this earth to experience life as a human. And to incarnate here, you chose two guardians from the very start, your mom and your dad, that opened the portal for you to come here. And you can see your mom and your dad, and that they have parents too, the grandparents and their parents. And so you realize, oh, wow, there's so many generations before me. And all went well because I'm here. That you started off life in the passenger seat. See yourself in the passenger seat. That's the womb of your mom. United and free at the same time. Then you come to earth as a baby, you start to crawl, you start to walk as a child, become a teenager. With all that has happened that you liked and that you didn't like. Or the turbulence and the turmoil that was there. And anytime, remember that you landed safely. Again. Until you come up to the point where we're sitting right here now. And when, with a deep sigh, say it to yourself. I survived. I landed safely. I am the pilot of my life. I am the pilot of my life. And as this pilot now, let 7 people appear around you. The first 7 you that come to your mind. Doesn't matter who they are. Maybe your friends, your family, parents, a teacher, a mentor, a pet. And see how they are looking at you. Some of them may be more near, some of them more distant, but they're there. And you make a difference in their lives, because they would not be in this relation, in this network, without you, in this connection, without you. And realize that you have a crew. You have a crew. See them around you, and then spot, and I promise you, they're there. Spot the 2 of them. 2 of those 7, that if there was something to happen to you, some danger threatening you, they would throw themselves in the way for you. They would stand up for you and give their life for you. Because for them, they are too the pilot of their own life in your service. So are you, pilot of your life, in the service of others. Let that sink deeply into your body. And even if you sometimes think you don't have many friends or no one knows you, recall that there are 2 people in this world who would give their life for you. And then open your eyes, come back. These have been 2 lessons that I learned from aviation. The one is, you're the pilot of your life. And second, every pilot has a crew. There's no pilot without a crew. And this you can see if you, just like you just did in this visualization, when you stand up from the passenger seat, you leave that oval window, get up and go into the cockpit where all the view is opening up for you. You can start to see them. This belongs to knowing yourself, taking a different perspective on your life. Now, with any challenge that you have faced already in life, and I can tell you here now, when you're here live, when you're on replay, when you're just sitting here and watching, that all went well because you are here. That is the proof. With any challenge that you have faced and you may face in the future or now challenging or now having, would you prefer to start and take up with headwind, like wind from the front, or tailwind, wind from the back? A moment to contemplate that. most of us say, oh, I'd love to have wind from the back supporting me so I can go faster. Yes, Suzanne says, I want a tailwind. That's what most people say to propel us forward, to gain more speed, to use this momentum. Now, what I can tell you is no pilot would choose the tailwind. They choose the headwind. Do you know why? Because headwind means you create more lift under your wings. More lifts and more energy is generated so you can lift up, rise, fly, and soar high. Otherwise, you would not get your plane off of the ground. Headwind has the potency of lifting you up. And you might recognize it in the lessons or the things, situations that were the most challenging for you, where you really faced lots of headwind. When you devoted yourself to them, when you dared to lift your wings, you came back stronger and wiser and more graceful and maybe more loving. Now, what it meant for me is I did a big circle. I did lots of personal training and development for myself. I had to bring back home aviation to me. I had to resolve all those treasures that were hidden in my generations and bring it back home so I come home. And now I am not just a coach and trainer and giving this to my clients, what I learned. I'm also a pilot in the making. Well, I'm getting my pilot's license. And I can tell you, there is so much more to learn. So anytime you level off somewhere, you find something new that excites you, that brings that sparkling in that sparkle in your eyes, where you think, oh, well, there's a new destination. I want to fly there. Until I land there, then I will look around and maybe there will be another destination that I want to go to. And this is how life works. This is how us as human beings work when we dare to really be human, be this human being fully. So what I wish for the trajectory that we are taking here together as a crew of Future Her, as everybody in their own pilot seat, that we create a world where we can, yes, bring business and femininity together, that we seek out, like, for our emotions, that they can be the fuel for anything that is coming, not for them to be bad. Both the so-called bad emotions and the so-called good emotions. By the way, they're all neutral. So it's just fuel for us. It just depends how we use them, when we apply them, during headwind or tailwind. And there's a time for everything. There are times where we lift and fly, and there are times where we want to land. There are times where we look back and look, okay, what went well? What do I want to keep for the next flight? And there are times where we reorientate ourselves, we change trajectories and find new destinations. And for Future Her, I wish for us all to create those ripple effects that we cannot overview yet, and we probably never will. Because our time too, like as we are sitting here, is limited. But we never know how far this goes. And I wish for us to emancipate fully, as men, as women, to emancipate fully, that we can be free. That's not the end of the sentence. That we can be free of needing to be free. because that's the current state we're just in. And once we're free of that need of that force and that, well, not force, but power, that notion of, hey, let's change it for the good, because we can see so much inequality here. Then we know ourselves better. We're starting to get energy that is now freed to create something we have no idea of yet. And I'm looking forward to this, even though I might not be there on this earth yet, so as you. We all know that on long flight legs that take long travels and the long journey, the crew has to be changed and switched because our time is limited here as human beings. And as long as we're here, I just encourage you and us to go as far as we can and to take the controls of our plane, to fly and to spread our wings and be the pilot of our lives. Because you are the proof that everything went well, everything. And someday, somebody of the future generation will think of you, not necessarily individually, but as a collective us, that we provided everything that they needed to go on and keep all the things moving. Thank you so much for listening, and I would love to open up and invite you back, Suzanne, on stage.
Wow. First of all, I learned so many things today, from you, and I'm just like processing them all. But the most important thing I want to say right now is I cannot believe this is the first time you've given a speech in English.
Oh,
I cannot. I'm like a little proud coach right now. Like, you are so exceptional and your connection is so beautiful, and I know everybody feels it. And so I'd love for you all to, I know there's a lot of you here, and I know some people are being quiet, but I know that together we've been having this feeling of flight. And the thing I learned from you today, which was so interesting, is that Lana says, beautiful, wowie, beautiful.
thank you, Lana.
In the world of that I have been through, technology, Hollywood, and then a lot around diversity, equity, and inclusion, is we often talk about how people with privilege, people with advantage, have a tailwind behind them. It's not that they aren't worthy. It's not that they didn't work hard for what they got. It's that they had this advantage of a tailwind. It propelled them faster, whether they were applying for a job and they went to the same college as the guy who is interviewing them, or whether their family had connections. Like, all of that is considered a tailwind. And a headwind in the world of diversity, equity, and inclusion is like, it's harder. It's like if you're riding a bicycle into the wind, you have to pedal twice as hard to get half the distance. But if you are pedaling with a tailwind behind you on a bicycle, you fly, right? And then you teach us that in aviation, in this different world, a world that I dream about, and I use planes and I get places, but it never occurred to me how a headwind could help me. A headwind, you said, lifts us. Okay, let me see, I wrote down the quote. Headwinds have the potency of lifting you up. This is such a beautiful metaphor for life, and because we often think a headwind makes our life hard. But in this case, it's such a flip. I'd love for you to tell us more about that, both the aerodynamics and the emotional dynamics, the soul dynamics.
Well, the aerodynamics is pretty simple, actually, because it lies in the profile. Like when you cut the wing in, like, let's say half, I guess, like this is the wing and you cut it this way, you will see that it is curved. causing the air to move at different speeds on the above side, top side of the wing and the lower side. And because of those differences, there is not actually the lift, but it's suction created. You don't actually have to lift yourself. There's something pulling you, even that. So if we look like very closely to that. And it just depends. And you can tell, like, when you're riding a bicycle, I do feel it too. I really love my bicycle. So I'm the same as you, like, oh, headwind, uphill. Well, what we forget
Uphill
as
headwinds.
humans, yes, what we forget as humans is we're not meant to be on a machine, which is a bike, and holding on to something and just, well, stepping in the pedals and stuff.
Pedaling.
We are meant to free our wings and to lift them and fly, because anything in nature is, first of all, changing, and second of all, striving for the higher good, for the higher. You can see it in plants. You put them in the soil. Now you could think like it's a seed in the soil. It's all dark. It's just darkness there. But in this little seed, and so it is with us humans, there lies everything. There's a blueprint for everything. It needs to be. And then it's gonna put its roots down the earth, and at the same time there will be leaves unfolding up there. And so are we as humans. What do you think? Like children, when they start walking, they're not like, as we would think, like they're not going through a process like, okay, first I have to kneel. Okay, first I have to kneel. Then I hold myself onto here. Then I put one leg up, then the other leg up. But, oh, did I crawl already? Okay, I crawled. Okay, that's good. Check mark here. And then I start walking slowly. And then when I can walk slowly, then I can walk a little faster. But really, let's very careful. No, this is not how kids learn to walk. As soon as they can, they just start to run, no matter how if they fall or not. And the interesting thing is, they are not running towards mommy. They're running away. Because those of you who have children, you might notice, like, as soon as a kid starts to walk, you have to get moving a lot more. You have to secure all the stuff in your house and stuff, because that is our sense of expansion in us. Yet at the same time, we have this fixed point in us. And for emotional development or emotional intelligence as well, like with a headwind, we are beings that are learning through the challenges. You can see that the time where you remember the most, it was the most challenging. It was the most first times, the first kiss, the first time alone traveling, the first apartment, the first business, the first whatever you do the first time. It's when you get the most headwind, because this is how you start and take off a plane. And this is what you remember most. And all the times where it was all like, oh, it was fine, it was very comfortable, it was very nice. The time flies by. And when you look back, you're asking yourself, like, oh, where did everything, like, where did all the time go?
So true.
And in other situations, like you're like, when you're having many first times, when you're building your business, for example, when you're going to the next challenge in your personal development on your journey, you will look back at some day and you will think, oh, really, I don't know how I made all these changes in this short period of time. So the way that counts is that way with the challenges. And so it is with the headwind.
So good. We're going to keep talking here for a few minutes, but if you have any questions for Shang, this is a beautiful time to drop them in the comments. You know, you have not taken a traditional path. I know that, you know, you're one of those amazing artistic weirdos like me, and you kind of go where the wind goes. You kind of go where you feel most. You spend a lot of time in flow. You have a deep knowing of your feminine energy. And yet you have the ability to be in masculine energy. In fact, you said you were too much in masculine energy while you were in your air traffic controller days, where your friend would say, hey, I can't believe that's you because I know this version of you. I'd love for you to talk to the people who are listening and those on replay about how you came to balance and lead yourself in this new way, because your presence is very much in feminine energetics, which is so beautiful. And it's hard for me to imagine. I met you, you know, however many months ago we started working together, but I met you and you told me this story about the air traffic controller and it being, you know, it's a hard job. It's a stressful job. How you changed who you be and found this balance. I'd love for you to speak to that.
There were several changes in that. It was a challenge. Now, training to be an air traffic controller, I really had to put all my strengths into it. First of all, this is a very selected space. And how I came to be an air traffic controller, I was led by flow, because I was in the last year of going to school. And then I heard the other students say, oh, well, I'll go study biology. I'll go do a training here. I will be traveling for 1 year. So the peer pressure was building. And then I was like, oh, maybe it's time that I find something for myself, because it's just 6 months to go. And I found an ad in a magazine. They were saying, well, the sky needs you, come and apply as an air traffic controller. And by that time, I did not even know what an air traffic controller is. I did not know what they do. I had no clue. I just liked the picture. But something was pulling me there. So I did my research. I thought like, okay, let's just give it a shot. I just sent my application and somehow I got through. Somehow, you know, like there was a big assessment center. And it's just to give you like something to grasp on. They say it's like about 3 to 5% of applicants they take, and just a certain percentage from them, they go through the training finally to become an air traffic controller. But that was not really important to me. It was, for me, it was important to move out from home, to like, leave this teenagerhood and become that adult. Like in your teenage years, like the world belongs to me. I'm the queen of everything. And that's how I let myself there. And then it was really hard for me because I had to cover up a huge part of myself, that creative, emotional part. And yeah, as you heard it.
I know how woo-woo and energetically led you are. And I can't imagine talking to the plane. Hello, Boeing 320. I would like to just introduce the concept that, you know, your energetics right now are a little bit toxic and you might want to be nicer to the passengers. I don't think that would go over very well.
Yeah, no, that does not work. No. No, so, but that was that profession taught me how to actually activate that masculine energy, because I was given this frame, the system, and I had to fit in. So I'm saying not everything is bad or good. So what I took from them, that because I did that, I know how to activate this yang, this masculine energy that is needed from time to time.
Yeah.
what I felt, there was a cognitive dissonance that grew stronger and stronger over the years, because I was there 10 years, and for the first 8 years, I did not dare to wear a skirt at work. And I could not hold it up anymore. So I got a little curious, of course, and a little, for me, it was crazy to wear a skirt at work. But I just tried it because I told my friends in private, they said, well, what? You are wearing jeans? You hate jeans. Why are you doing this to yourself? And I took that and I was, yeah, they're right. I will do that. So I started in the past 2 years already with those little experiments. And then I found out, okay, I don't die. I'm not being attacked because I wear skirt. I realized then that it was all in myself. It was all in my head that I thought I was less competent when I wear a skirt. That I was less of the doer when I wear a skirt. Of course, that was nonsense, but I did not know better. And then after I left, I took the opposite direction. I moved country to Austria, and then I started acting studies. So I was really drawn to it. So I let myself be led to this, okay, I really want to live this part of me too. And working with your whole body, your whole being, and what you're becoming and what you have become already, that really drew me to acting, even though I have not done any workshops or so before. And I took a coach, actually, because I said, well, I want to change things. I don't know how. I need help. And that's it. Like, if you're in a situation where you really cannot advance by your own means, you need a different perspective. And that might be a coach, that might be a mentor, a guide, that might be the air traffic controller looking on the radar screen for the pilot, that might be the pilot looking out of the cockpit for the passenger. And all those views are needed, all of them. It's not about that we push them away, just like I did, and I just found out later, but that we integrate them and we say, oh, I can handle things like this as I learned, but now I have more options. I can do it like that as well.
Gosh, I don't know if you guys are catching how juicy this is, but like, we were with Makosi earlier today, we were talking about being in flow and how abundance, really the truest kind of abundance, comes from flow. And yet in society, we're taught all the time to step out of flow so we can get shit done. And yet it turns out the universe co-creates with you when you're in flow, so the work doesn't feel like work. It feels like a magic carpet ride. That's what I think about. It's like, how can we create a life and a working situation for ourselves that feels like a magic carpet ride, that we're out there living our best life, experiencing where the wind is taking us. And that's what I love about your energy and the way that you show up in the world is, you work with me in my Ignite Her mastermind. And one of the things I love, and I know this about Shang, is like, it's not my job ever to push. I don't like to push anyone. I feel like people either are self-led or they're not. But the question is, how do you guide someone who is riding the wind? And you are one of those people who rides the wind. And so if I try in any way to put boundaries around you and shackles around you and tell you these are the things to do, it's not going to work. It's like trying to control a thunderstorm or trying to, control a tsunami. You can't control nature.
My fiance would confirm that 1000%.
What way? What way? Hello,
Well, hello, Stacia. Well, of course, if now that these are different dynamics now, as we're in a relationship. So there's kind of that, I love to give him the masculine part. I love it when he organizes and does things like in a way where he regulates our relationship externally, whereas I do it in my feminine energy, like between us.
Mhm.
And he really says, well, okay, it's so true, because my dad, when they met, my dad was like, okay, Moritz, my fiance's name. He sat him down with a beer and said, you know, it's like that. Women are thunderstorms.
Oh.
You cannot do anything about it. You just have to wait, be it in their highs or in their lows. There's so much energy in them. That's what he wanted to say, that there's no way to cage a woman. She will break free at some point. And this is what my fiance is just confirming. He says, oh yeah, okay. Anytime I'm being too strong and setting boundaries in a way that is like, oh, it might shrink her down, it's not before long where everything explodes and the thunderstorms coming out. Still, we're making fun of it, so it's all good.
And I love that, because being a strong woman is very anti the kind of society we live in.
Yeah.
Right? Even though we're looking for strong women, we're looking for role models, we're looking for women to emulate or look up to. It's been something that we have been controlled. I think of women in the 1950s. They'd like make breakfast for their kids and their husband, and she'd wave them off to work, and then she'd vacuum the home. And then she'd get together with girlfriends to have coffee. And then by the mid-afternoon, she was bored out of her mind, and she'd either start drinking or doing something that was detrimental to her, or she would start busting the seams of the building, right?
Yeah.
And I am definitely a bust the seams of the building person. I know you are too. It's like quiet storm and then, right?
Yeah.
And I love this because we can be deeply in our feminine, but also know that we're driving the future.
It's exactly that. It's not about having to be strong, having to build a business, having to do things. It's about having the choice to be strong and having the choice to be graceful and light. So if we bear this in mind, that it's not this exclusive thing that we have to choose either this or that, and we have them both on our horizon, on our radar, that is just different options that we have the choice to pick, then we have all the freedom in the world. And it doesn't matter then if you feel fine in like living the life of a woman who's taking care of children and doing the household, and you find your happiness there. This is all good. So there's sometimes a misunderstanding that is created then with this emancipation thing, that you think, oh, you need to be strong, you need to be stepping up, you need to have having built a business, and that's not what feminine energy is about. And emancipation, it's about the choice and having the options, and then deciding for yourself and being the pilot.
Absolutely. This has been a delight, Shang. Thank you so much. Now, if people wanted to get in touch with you, what's the best way? I know I put your Instagram on your bio page. It's a little hard to spell because it's a word in German. What does it mean in German?
It's the German word for air traffic controller. So it's one word in German, Lebenslotsen, the feminine pronunciation, because, you know, it's a bit more in detail defined in German, whereas in English it's air traffic controller, three words. Yeah. You can find me on my Facebook profile page as well. So the best way would be to look it up in the comments, just to put it in, and then DM me, because all the stuff you're finding there, it's in German. So don't let this distract you. it's proof now that I do understand English and we can communicate in English as well. So that was a decision I took a while ago to focus myself on German. That's a matter of fact, like being the pilot who like have the options in mind and then choose the lane you want to go down. So if you want to stay in contact, I would be happy to hear feedback from you, or what has moved you most, what inspired you, and how you could put it into practice. Just DM me and I will answer. I will be there.
And you're also an incredible coach and do a lot of work with people on their own leadership. And so she's definitely a resource that you could reach out to.
Yes.
Thank you so much for
much.
sharing yourself with us today, for sharing your time and talent. I love you so much. You're an incredible human being. I love that you showed all of us how to become the pilot of our own life. It's something we need more and more these days. And I'm really grateful that you've been with us.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful to be part of your crew, Suzanne, and all of you who are listening.
I love that you're part of my crew. That's so cool. Bye.
Bye.